Hello and welcome to the Skraby Show. Thank you to everyone for being with me here on March 26th. It feels like Friday, it feels like a Thursday, it feels like a Tuesday, it feels like any other day. I just last week really messed up my schedule. I don't know why. I'm being a baby about it, but it really, the 3 a.m. wake up just threw everything off. And now that I'm a very regimented human being, I am confused on what day it is every single day. Thanks to everybody again for joining me. If you want to watch on YouTube, you can just go to YouTube, search 97.3 The Fan, or you can go to Facebook. You can go to Twitch, 97.3 The Fan. You could also go to X, 97.3 The Fan SD. We're going to go over some of the news of the day. And so we're going to talk about the Padres game. We're also going to talk about the NFL changes and the rules of what they decided to change for next year, including the kickoff. So we'll get into that. Also, there's some MLB milestones that may come up this year among some of the players, and we're going to go over which milestones we should watch for this season because I love milestones. I really do. Also, I want to talk about Jordan Hicks real quick because I said he wasn't going to be very good as a starter, but I know it's spring training. But he did show up and he did do some great things. I'm just getting breaking news right here on the station, and it's not good for the National League West. But according to MLB Network, the reports are that Jordan Montgomery has agreed to a 1-year, $25 million deal with the Diamondbacks. So, man, that is it's kind of brutal. So the two biggest arms, or maybe not biggest arms, but the two highly talked about arms in the offseason that were free agents, Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery, both signed in the National League West. That's brutal. And this just happened like right now. I'm seeing on MLB Network. So it is actually being reported. I am not being duped because they are talking about it on their channel. Apparently it includes a second-year vesting option, but he must start in 10 games during 2024. So here's the rotation now for the Diamondbacks. You got Zach Gallen, Jordan Montgomery, Merrill Kelly, Tommy Henry, Brandon Pfaadt, and Ryan Nelson. A lot of people thought the Diamondbacks made a lot of huge improvements in the offseason, and they did. And Jordan Montgomery getting into that rotation is another huge improvement for the Diamondbacks. Man, I'm kind of like at a loss for words a little bit because I didn't think that the Padres are going to have to face these two guys in the same division all year long. I mean, the National League West just keeps getting better and better and better. And I guess you're all chasing after the dreaded Dodgers because of how much they spent in free agency. But you have to compete, and so you got to spend money. And Jordan Montgomery on a 1-year deal, $25 million, with the Diamondbacks, that does not make me happy at all. So if you have any suggestions, if you have any thoughts on this, please let me know in the chat, or you can let me know on Twitter at Matt Skraby. Let's do the roll call real quick. Michael's here, Tyler's here, Castro's here, Maria is here, Dan is here, Evan is here, Sandman is here, Junior's here, Kirsten's here, Nikki is here, Junior, I think I already said that, Jacob, Cesar. So we got a bunch of people in the chat right now, and everybody is kind of as upset about this Jordan Montgomery thing as I am. But wow, that is that's wild. But the NL West keeps getting better and better and better. If you just got in your car and you're just hearing the news, it came down in the last 3 or 4 minutes. Jordan Montgomery signs 1-year, $25 million deal with the Diamondbacks. So we will talk about that in just a second. But let's, get into some of the news of the day so I can reset my thoughts on that Jordan Montgomery thing. But we do have a Padres game to talk about and another local story.
It's time to get caught up on the latest with the news of the day.
Easy Money says, I'm glad it's not the Dodgers. I don't think they could afford any more high-priced pitchers. But that is, all right, we'll talk about that in just a second. I'm trying to get some quick reaction, but let's go to the news of the day. And the first one will be the Padres game from today. Now, I know it's a spring training game, and I know that we saw a bunch of different minor leaguers at the end of the game, so we're not going to even really talk about the end of the game. But what I would like to talk about is how the starters played, the big league guys played, and what I thought was good to see all spring training, and something that I didn't see as much last year. We didn't see as much last year, but I feel like they were able to score right back, or they were able to answer right back whenever someone scored against them here in spring training. And then today they did the same thing. They went down quick 2-0, but they were able to get on the board in the bottom of the first inning. Again, it's just a spring training game, but they were able to tie it up 2-2 after Julio Rodriguez hit a monster home run to left field. He golfed that thing out of there. I did not pick him on my fantasy team, but I really looked at him. And so I'm not going to take too much from that, because Julio Rodriguez is a very, very good baseball player. But at the same time, I think, Michael King has been very good, or he's been good in spring training, but I don't know that Michael King has seen what I don't want to make it seem like he's pitched bad in spring training, because he hasn't pitched bad in spring training, but he went 4 2/3 today. He gave up 3 runs, 2 home runs. He struck out 7, which is nice, but he also walked 2. So he gave up 3 hits, put 5 batters on base. 3 of those batters scored, and 2 home runs were hit. So not the cleanest day in the world for Michael King, but I'll take the 7 strikeouts all day. He can clean up the other stuff. Mortejon went inning and a third. He only gave up 1 hit. He struck out 4, so that was huge. Vasquez went 2 innings. He struck out 3, but he did walk 3. And then Usak I think he had a tough go at it, because, no pun intended, because his defense let him down at the end of the game. There was a ball that dropped in between 2 fielders. There was also a low throw. There was a lot of stuff going on at the end of the game, so I'm not going to blame Go for that, but he did take the L in the game in the blown save. But today against the Mariners, pretty good stuff, I will take it. Especially, like I said, the comeback that they made, not the comeback, but the tying it up in the first was good. They went back down in the second inning 3-2, and then they scored 3 in the 7th, the Padres did. And then the Mariners scored 3 in the 9th, which put them at 7. Padres tried to get back. They couldn't. They lose 7-6 today. So there you go. All right. Let's get to our next story, which is the Cal State San Marcos women's basketball team. You just heard us talking about it. They are in the Final Four, and they're playing Minnesota State. They just took out the number 1 seed in the Division II tournament, which was Gannon. So this is what we're the Cal State San Marcos Cougars women's basketball team. Keep them in your thoughts. They will be playing tomorrow night against Minnesota State in Missouri, and it's going to be on CBS Sports Network at night. So I think everybody should tune in on that, especially on a night where there's no Padres baseball. It's the eve of the eve. Yeah, today is the eve of the baseball season. So we got nothing going on tomorrow night, and you should be watching Cal State San Marcos. Final news story of the day. Like I said, the NFL, they have changed their rules. And here is, I guess, a quick list of things that are changing within the rules. And that is kickoffs are radically changing. Now, we've talked about this on the show here in the last couple of weeks, but basically what is going to happen now is the kicker is going to kick off from like the 35-yard line. The kicking team will have players lined up in stationary at the other 35-yard line, so on the other team's side of the field. Then that team will have their defenders at the 30, and the kicking team cannot move until the ball goes over their heads. So it's going to look a little bit crazy at first. I personally don't even know why kickoffs are a thing anymore, but what the NFL is saying, and I guess, believe them in this, is that they are going to have fewer touchbacks and more returns with this. And so what they're trying to do is make sure that guys aren't running full speed down the field and smacking heads. And kickoffs were one of the leading causes of head injuries and leading causes of injuries. So any of these kicks inbounds now can be returned, and it's going to happen more often than not. The new kickoff rule is onside kicks. Here's what I was trying to get to. The onside kicks are only available in the fourth quarter. If you're trailing and want to kick a traditional onside kick, you have that right, with the players from both sides lining up 5 yards apart. A surprise onside kick to catch the opposition off guard will be a thing of the past, but surprise onside kicks haven't really been working. So they said, you know what? We're not going to not change a rule because surprise onside kicks can happen, but they're going to revisit this rule after the 2024 season. So it's going to be a little crazy with these kickoffs, but we'll see how it goes as we go along. Hip drop tackle is banned. We talked about that yesterday, so I don't really need to go into that anymore. The NFL trade deadline is going to be a week later, as some of the teams wanted. Instead of the week 8 trade deadline, the date has been moved back to week 9. The change was proposed by the Pittsburgh Steelers, so they got what they wanted and moved it back a week, which I don't really get, but okay. Coaches also will get a third challenge. They no longer have to win their first 2 challenges to get a third challenge. Now they only have to win one of their first 2 challenges to get a third. So I'm not sure about that one. I feel like challenges were a last case scenario, and you had to be real strategic in how you use your challenges. But now it's like if you throw one out there and you're so on it, you only need one of those 2 to hit so that you get the third challenge, which I'm not necessarily a fan of, but who cares right now. Enforcement of fouls on change of possession plays. During a play that results in possession change, if fouls are committed by both teams, any major offensive fouls that were committed before the possession change will now be enforced. That wasn't the case before. Also, replay system. I know I'm throwing a lot out there right now, but replay system is also getting a change. The replay assistant will now be allowed to correct objectively incorrect calls for intentional grounding and roughing the passer. Replay review will be allowed when there's clear and obvious visual evidence that the game clock expired before any snap. Ruling of a passer down by contact or out of bounds before throwing a passer, now reviewable plays. So that's a lot I just threw at you. But those are all some of the rules that are being changed here in the NFL. I saw a comment on the chat. It's from Michael. It says, too much tinkering. I kind of agree. With the tinkering here. I don't necessarily think that the NFL needed to do all this. I'm all for making things better. I'm all for trying new things. But when you don't really need to tinker with it, why tinker with it? That's what I say. I do like the replay assistant now being able to overturn roughing the passer calls, because that'll help a little bit with some of those penalties that definitely aren't penalties that end up bailing out a team. But I do like that. Also, the play clock expiration review, it's probably because of the 49ers and what happened in the playoffs. So there you go. All right, that is it for the first segment of the Skraby Show. I'm Matt Skraby. If you want to join me on YouTube, you can just search 97.3 The Fan, or go to Facebook, or go to X, 97.3 The Fan SD. When we get back, we'll kind of talk about that Jordan Montgomery signing with the Diamondbacks thing here for a little bit. The deal is pending a physical, so we have seen those go south before with Carlos Correa. So I'll keep an eye on that and see if anything comes down during the Skraby Show. But when we get back, we'll talk Jordan Hicks, we'll talk Jordan Montgomery. We'll also look into some of these milestones we should watch for this baseball season. I'll be back shortly here with you. I'm Matt Skraby, Skraby Show, 97.3 The Fan. If you're just hearing this, the National League West got more difficult because the reports are out saying that pending a physical, Jordan Montgomery signs a 1-year, $25 million deal with the Diamondbacks with a vesting option. Don't really care about that vesting option right now, but that'll be something that comes in later. Matt Skraby here, Skraby Show 97.3 The Fan. Thank you for joining me. You could join me on YouTube if you want. Just search 97.3 The Fan, Facebook, also X 97.3 The Fan SD. I went quickly to see what kind of numbers players have on the Padres against Jordan Montgomery. And if my research is correct, I do use StatHead. And I'm seeing that Jordan Montgomery he only has faced 3 Padres. And so basically, this is going to be a new pitcher for most of these guys. The one thing I will say that is very good for the Padres in this regard, out of one of the 3 guys, one of them is hitting 471 against them. And that player is Xander Bogaerts. He's 16 for 34, and he's hitting 471. His OPS is 1.029. So that is good because Xander Bogaerts can, let the rest of the guys know what's up with Jordan Montgomery. But he has some really, really good numbers against him. Manny Machado, he does not have good numbers against him. He is 1 for 12.083 OPS or batting average. So, only 12 not played appearances, 12 at bats. So not too many at bats against him. And then we have a player who is batting 1,000 against Jordan Montgomery. And that guy, Kyle Higashioka, he's 1 for 1 against Jordan Montgomery. So not much there in the way of familiarity. So the Padres are going to have to get used to Jordan Montgomery, just like any other team. And but Xander Bogaerts, it's very good that he has that average against him. Easy money. I'm going to put this up on screen. Says D-backs can play ball, but we have the talent to beat them. Just gotta win series. Can't sweep them. I agree with that. Padres, they struggled to do that last year, and so this year, win series. What is it? Win series at home, split on the road, and you can make the playoffs. So I think the Padres are going to need to follow that this year. Junior says, yeah, I'm not too worried about the D-backs. I'm not worried about them per se, but I am not necessarily happy what's going on with this team because they're adding a lot of pieces. And they just add someone to be the number 2 pitcher behind Zach Gallen. And if we're going to talk about adding pitchers to the National League West, we should talk about Jordan Hicks. And I said a couple weeks ago, I don't think Jordan Hicks is going to be a big-time starter for the Giants because he throws too hard. He's been wild at times. And I think I maybe should have held or bit my tongue a little bit on that because he's proving me wrong. And so last night they played the A's, the Giants did, and I know it's the A's, but Jordan Hicks went 5 innings. He did not give up a hit. He had 1 walk, and he had 10 Ks in the 5 innings. He was throwing, according to this article on NBC Sports Bay Area, he was throwing, which, he throws over 100 miles an hour, and he has done that as a closer. But he's going to probably he's dialing it down a lot. And they're saying that last night on 3 consecutive pitches, A's catcher Shea Langeliers, he struck out a 97-mile-an-hour sinkers. And there was also a 98.7-mile-an-hour four-seam fastball that was thrown in the 4th inning. So his velocity can get up there to 98, 99. But if he wants to pitch all season long and he wants to keep his arm fresh, he's going to have to keep it. He's going to have to keep his velocity under control. Make sure he doesn't, go through his arm too quick. Again, another proof that I was not very smart by saying Jordan Hicks is not going to be good this year. He, in spring, pitched 17 innings, and he posted a 2.65 ERA in those 5 starts with 28 strikeouts in 17 innings pitched. So not the numbers that make you feel comfortable as a Padre fan. Not the numbers you feel comfortable with at all. Let's see. Kez says on the chat, the fact that the D-backs and Giants got better just makes it harder and harder to get that wild card spot. That is a far out point. That is a really, really great point. It is. The wild card spot is getting more difficult for teams in the National League and especially for teams in the National League West. I mean, it's just unfortunate. Every time you turn around, they're adding another player to another team. And you know what? The one thing we could all hang our hat on is that the Rockies, man, they're not going to add anyone. So we don't have to worry about the Rockies adding anyone because we know that they're not going to add anyone. Let's see if there's any more reactions here. Another L for Boris is a W for baseball. I guess that is an L because he didn't get the long-term deals that he wanted to. Boris wanted these long. He thought I'm putting thoughts into his head right now, but I feel like with the way things go with Scott Boras and the way that he negotiates contracts and he gets what he wants from the teams, I think he probably feels like this was a tough offseason for him because two of his biggest clients ended up taking lesser deals in the year department with 1 year, $25 million. If he starts 23 games, okay, so there's more information coming out on this contract with Jordan Montgomery and the Diamondbacks. The deal is still pending a physical, but if he pitches 25 games, he gets the full 25 million. There's different levels. So if he pitches 10 games, he gets a certain amount and then it goes up from there. So something to keep an eye on. Definitely something to keep an eye on. Now, last week, I was just sent this on Twitter, so thank you for sending this to me, whoever you were. I can't remember at the time. Let me go back and look. Brian and Chula sent this to me. But in the game against the Dodgers, game 2 against the Dodgers last week, they have made a rule change, a scoring change, and it ends up giving Fernando Tatis Jr. another hit. So it was one where they gave Max Muncy an error on the play, and it was in the top of the 3rd inning. But here's what the tweet says from MLB Scoring Changes. With this change, Padres' Fernando Tatis has his average rise from 250 to 375. Dodgers' third baseman Max Muncy now has 1 error, not 2. And pitcher Michael Grove had his ERA rise from 13.5 to 18. So everybody benefits in this whole thing except for Michael Grove. He gets his ERA to go up because Max Muncy had one clank off his glove. I mean, Max Muncy was not very good in that game 2 against the Padres. But there you go. Fernando hitting 375 this season. Yes. All right. Let's get into this MLB milestone article that I saw this morning because I am always watching to see if any records are going to be broken. And I think you've heard me say this before, but I think the records in baseball are so much better than all the other records because there's so much history behind it. And so when you break a record in baseball, you're doing something very impressive. And Spencer Strider has been very impressive here in the first little part of his career because he is looking to be the fastest pitcher to 500 strikeouts. And it's probably going to happen here in the first maybe 2 or 3 starts for Spencer Strider. He is entering this year with 483 strikeouts in his career and just 320 and 2/3 innings, putting him on track to just demolish this record because Freddie Peralta is the one who holds the record now. The 5 fastest currently, Freddie Peralta, 372 innings. So he's got 52 and 2/3 innings to play with to get 17 or 18 strikeouts for Spencer Strider. So you should watch for that. I think the Padres play the Braves early in the year. I'm looking back on the schedule right now, but I believe that they do. I just can't see that far because I don't have my glasses on. I'm being dead serious. It doesn't look like they play until much later. So yeah, Spencer Strider will probably have the record at that point. Now, Corbin Burns, who is now an Oriole, he is working on 1,000 strikeouts. He enters with 870 career strikeouts and 709 innings. And to get to 1,000 strikeouts, he needs to do it in 100 innings, basically. Robbie Ray holds the record right now, 810 innings to get to 1,000 strikeouts. Yu Darvish on the list, too. 812 innings pitched. It looks like we're playing the Braves in July, Chance is saying. So, Junior, get your mind out of the gutter. All right, Corbin Burns. Will that happen? I mean, he does have he is a strikeout pitcher, but he needs 130. So I think he'll probably get there. Pete Alonso, 200 home runs. He is going to he's played 684 games so far. No player has more home runs than Alonso's 192 since he debuted in 2019. He reached 100 homers in the second fewest games in history. But after his to getting to 200 home runs, he's played 684 games so far, which will not be able to overtake Ryan Howard's 658 games. It's probably not going to happen, but you never know. You never know. It could happen. Aaron Judge, 300 home runs. It's all a bunch of people. Okay, here's the one I wanted to get to. Juan Soto, 200 home runs, most walks before turning 26. We saw a ton of walks here in San Diego. He enters the 2024 season with 160 career home runs, turned 25 this offseason. Just 7 players have reached 200 homers before turning 26. Jimmy Fox, Eddie Matthews, A-Rod, Mel Ott, Mickey Mantle, Albert Pujols, and Frank Robinson. His 640 career walks are the most in Major League Baseball history before turning 25 and second most before turning 26. Mickey Mantle walked 668 times. So he just needs, let's see, he's 29 away from setting the pre 26-year-old record. So there you go. There you go. Let's go back to the chat and see what's going on. Annabelle says Strider is her guy. Well, you can have him when he's not pitching against the Padres. Also, let's see. Patrick and Annie say Crony is streaky. 1 week I love him there. Next week he needs to bat 7th. Well, let's give him a chance to bat in the top of the lineup for a little bit before we get into that. Let's see. All right. I will stop looking at the chat and I will go to break because we're heading up to the last segment of the Skraby show. And we are going to talk about Jordan Montgomery again. A little bit more information is coming out. Very little information is coming out, but we'll talk about that. Well, also, there is, if we get to it, but there is something that I found out the other day that terrifies me. And if we get to it, it'll terrify you. I promise you. But we'll talk about that, hopefully, when we get back here on the Skraby Show on 97.3 The Fan. Don't worry, I did not forget the daily gripe. Because that's the way we end the show, the daily gripe. Someone was worried on the chat. So I just want to make sure everybody knew. Last night was the fantasy sports draft, auto drafter, taking all the time up on the clock and just making everybody sit there, even though the computer knows who it's going to select. Yeah, it's not, doesn't bother me or anything. Matt Skraby, Skraby Show 97.3, The Fan. We are, dealing with the news that came down in the first 3 minutes of the show. And that would be that Jordan Montgomery has signed with the Arizona Diamondbacks 1 year, $25 million. But it does, he does have to pitch up to a certain level to get all of that $25 million. If he starts 10 games, he gets $20 million. So basically, it's a 1 year, $20 million deal until he starts 10 games. Then he gets $2.5 million, and then at 23 starts, he gets another $2.5 million. So there's 3 different breakdowns. It's a little confusing, I guess, but it's worth up to $25 million. And we already talked about Xander Bogaerts has great career against Jordan Montgomery, but he doesn't have much experience against the Padres at all. He's only faced 3 of the Padres, and so it's going to be a whole new thing for them. Now, if you're looking at the Diamondbacks rotation, you're going to go Zach Gallen, number 1, Jordan Montgomery, number 2, Merrill Kelly, number 3, Tommy Henry, number 4, Brandon Pfaadt, number 5, and then if they do like a 6-man rotation, or if they need someone, Ryan Nelson is number 6. So they go righty, lefty, righty, lefty, righty, righty. It's pretty balanced right there. Pretty balanced. Michael King today, he pitched for the Padres. He had good moments at times, and he also struggled at times. He gave up a home run to Julio Rodriguez there in the first inning, and Michael King went 4 2/3, gave up 3 runs, 2 homers, but he struck out 7. So I like the strikeout numbers, obviously. I like the strikeout numbers. The daily gripe, or not, the thing that terrified me, I got a message in the break. It is not about anything having to do with breaking into your house and sleeping in your attic. It's not frogging. I promise it's not frogging. It's something else that is very, very terrifying. But if you have any questions, or if you want to talk about the Jordan Montgomery signing to the Diamondbacks, let me know. Now, I don't want to talk about Shohei Ohtani every night, because I don't. But what I can say is I don't get a feeling that he's lying about betting on baseball or anything like that. I don't get that feeling. And the more time passes, I get more of this feeling that Ipe, his interpreter, was probably doing things on the down low. But I will say that I don't know that Shohei Ohtani found out when everybody else found out. I just don't think that's how things are handled. But if this were another player, I really think that this would be different. Baseball has to protect their moneymakers, and Shohei Ohtani is a moneymaker for baseball. And I feel like if this was another player, I don't even want to say a player's name, but if this was someone on the lower tier or the mid tier, I feel like they would definitely be handled a lot different. And I don't even know. Maybe they have spoken. I don't even think Rob Manfred has made any comments about this publicly, like actually stood in front of some cameras and answered questions. But when you have this big of a story overshadowing one of the biggest players in baseball history on one of the most recognizable teams, I feel like that's a big deal. And it seems like baseball's hoping that this just goes away. And I really don't know. I just think that Shohei Ohtani is going to need to prove to everyone by showing the proof of him not being a part of this. So there you go. That's all I'm going to talk about in the Shohei Ohtani stuff. Again, Dominic says, Ohtani does not strike me as the type of dude that ain't paying attention to his money and had no clue he was light $4.5 million. He's full of about that. The one I agreed with you earlier in the week, but I don't know, because a lot of athletes have managers, have personal assistants, have these people that are in their life, and they do have access to accounts. Now, do I think that $4.5 million being gone would be a red flag? Yes. But does Shohei Ohtani, and this is crazy to say, but does Shohei Ohtani really notice $500,000 is missing? And again, it's crazy to say, but he has more money than he knows what to do with. So I don't know that he's counting his pennies, which is $500,000. Anyway, the one thing that's going to prove to us what happened is them investigating and them figuring out whether or not or how much he knew about the information. But man, this is a big deal, and Rob Manfred hasn't said anything yet. But he's already like kind of thinking about his retirement that he announced for like 2028 or something like that. I don't know why he announced it, but he did. All right. I feel like I'm running through this show, but we have talked about a lot tonight. And one of the things that I get from people out there is they like when I bring these scary stories to you. And they're not like campfire. That's the word I was looking for. They're not campfire scary stories. These things are actually real. And I heard about this the other day, and I think I needed to bring some light to it because there was a major injustice that happened, and I'm being dead serious. And I don't know if anybody's heard of this. Well, first, I'm not a water guy. I'm not an ocean guy. You will not get me into the ocean. I said a few weeks ago that people who go into the ocean at night are crazy. Yeah, not going to be that guy. Titanic people, that was also crazy. But one of the things that I think is one of the scariest jobs out there, and it's divers. I think they're called oh my gosh, now I'm forgetting the name of them. They're called something divers, saturation divers. So they basically stay underwater for a long period of time, and they're construction workers for, say, oil rigs, things like that. But saturation divers is what I'm talking about. These guys are not necessarily saturation divers, but they were divers that were making a repair on an oil pipeline in Trinidad and Tobago. And yes, it is Tobago. Patrick and Annie says, I keep thinking that scary little girl is going to crawl out of that ring reflection to Skraby's right. That is funny. I have a ring light in the window. So Trinidad and Tobago, it's called Perea Fuel Trading Company. On February 22nd or 25th, 2022, one of the worst things that's ever happened to these guys, obviously, happened. And so what they were doing was they were trying to get this they call it a berth. Berth number 6 is where they have ships pull up and they can offload the oil or they can pump in the oil. So it's basically like a gas pump. And so they needed to get this ready because they had made it, they stored it or they put it into storage mode. So they had guys go down there. There's 5 guys, and they went down and they were trying to get this, like, I guess they put an airbag into the end of the pipe that is going to have the oil flow through it. And they put the airbag in there so that no oil is able to get through. And so it creates a bunch of pressure inside. But these dudes were in a diving bell, meaning they were out of the water, underwater. And so they were working on this thing. And for some reason, when they deflated the airbag, they didn't think about the pressure, the differential in the pressure. So while doing this, they open up the air, they deflate the airbag, and then everything goes haywire. And the craziest part about this is that these guys, one of them had a GoPro on while this happened because it happened a couple years ago. But so they get sucked into this oil pipe, all 5 guys. And the oil pipe is about 2.5 feet in diameter, I believe. So these guys get sucked into the oil pipe, and they're being pushed through this oil pipe in the dark with a bunch of water and a bunch of oil surrounding them. And so they finally get to a point where where the pressure equalized, and they're stuck in this pipe. They're stuck in the pipe, everyone. And the GoPro video is some of the most terrifying footage I have ever heard. You can't see anything because the pipe is completely dark. But the reason I wanted to bring this up is because no one was talking about this for some reason. But the company, the fuel trading company, decided not to rescue these guys. They decided that they were just going to leave them in the pipe. And they heard noises from the pipe for 2 days with these guys in there. Now, here's how they found out these guys were still alive. One of the 5 guys who went in last, he was actually like, they all stopped in this part of the pipe where there was a little bit of air pocket because it had a bend in it. So these guys are trying to breathe in this tiny little pipe. And the last guy, he starts wiggling his way backwards through the pipe, trying to get back out towards the top. I mean, we're talking about feet after feet after feet. And this dude goes backwards and he reaches a point where the air runs out. And he's like, I mean, if I don't go this way, if I don't try to get us help, we are never getting out of here. So if I pass away in the process, I pass away in the process. But he's going through this pipe, holding his breath. And as soon as he gets to a point in the pipe, he's about to run out of air. One of the scuba tanks was in the pipe. So he uses the scuba tank and he shimmies his way through this oil pipe. He gets all the way out of the top. He tells the people what's going on. But the company admitted that they had no rescue plan. And they also cited that they had, quote, no legal responsibility to rescue the men. And so they left him in this pipe. And so the guy who got out, his name is Chris. He got out and he tried to go back in, but they wouldn't let him go back in the pipe, obviously, because it's very dangerous. But he was trying to save his friends. And the company said, you know what? We're good. We're just going to leave him down there. So 2 days, these guys were in this pipe, hoping for someone to save them. And I can't think of a more terrifying way to go. And it's insane because this company did not care. And so I'm saying it to everyone, not to scare everyone, not to tell scary stories, but to maybe put a little bit of pressure. I know I'm not going to accomplish much, but I think this should be looked into a little bit more. In November 2023, the inquiry on them said that the negligence of the company could be characterized as gross negligence and consequently criminal. They said that they recommended charging the company with corporate manslaughter, but nothing came of that. So there you go. It's insane that someone's life is not worth you saving it. Like they were hearing these guys in the pipe, and even like fishermen tried to go help them. Other divers on the island who heard about this tried to go help them, and no one wanted to help them. And I just don't get it. I mean, that's really sad. It's really, really, really sad. And I can't stand by a corporation like that. I really can't. For a corporation, I'm being honest. How do these CEOs sleep at night? Really? How do these CEOs sleep at night? Because they basically signed the death wish or death warrant to these guys by saying that we're not going to go help them. It's just something I don't understand. And McKee says, nutty putty, but in a pipe, scary. Yes, I've been on these like tight squeezes lately. This one I found out randomly, and it is just my worst nightmare. Being in this pipe underwater. My goodness. My goodness. All right. Let's see what time it is. All right, let's do this.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
Dan says CEOs are AI. I don't know about that, but maybe. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, they kind of are. They don't really have capabilities of feeling emotion. Some CEOs. Yes, I have a ring light behind me. If you haven't seen yet, you need to go to the YouTube and you need to search 97.3 The Fan. All right. So the Daily Gripe today is I'm trying to branch out a little bit, but I feel like this is a branched out enough that it's not like specifically me driving or it's not specifically me on the walk. But I cannot stand it when people are crossing the street and they walk slow and steady. They're like a turtle on the street. And I know that you cannot enter the intersection to turn right until that person is out of the walkway. And I had someone today crossing the street. And I wasn't mad. But they were messing with me. I almost just said a swear word. Almost just did. They were messing with me because they looked at me and they started walking slower. I'm not thinking that everybody else is out to get me, but slow crossers are not fun, and I'm not a fan. Get across the street, people. Junior says, give me the fake fast walk at least. Yes, you get it. Anthony says, slow crossers are power trippers. Yes, you get it. I don't know, man. It's kind of ridiculous. I know I'm a ridiculous human being, and I know that I have weird thoughts on everything, but I don't think it's just me that gets bothered by this whole walking slowly across the street. A little fake jog and a hop. And Trevor says they are homeless. I'm not talking about the homeless people. I'm not going to pick on them. I'm talking about regular people that are just like walking with backpacks or something like that. So I was watching, we're almost done with the Skraby show. I was watching this game on MLB Network between the Angels and the Dodgers. And during the game, someone went behind the catcher and the umpire to the backstop and was trying to fix something, but they were still playing. So I was like, man, is this guy going to get a fastball to the back of the head? This would be very dangerous. But then they realized he was back there and they stopped the game. So there you go. All right, tomorrow, full 4 hours. Tony will be in studio. Ben Wood start at 6 a.m. Annie and Nelson, 10 a.m. Us, 2 p.m. See you. I almost just stumbled all over my words trying to get out. But we will all talk to you tomorrow on the eve of the home opener. So I look forward to talking with all you tomorrow. Have a good night.